My name is Ronald Melvin.
My name is Rother Boswell.
My name is John Tipton.
My name is Robin Cole.
My name is Charles R. Merkel.
And I'm Nate McLaughlin.
I'm Blanche Valentine, and this is Palm Coast View.
Welcome again to another edition of Palm Coast View. Today we're going to take a look at trusting the government. It's a very difficult subject because if you don't trust the government, who do you trust?
I don't totally trust anyone or anything beyond what they've shown me that I can. So while I won't say that I don't trust the government, I will say that there are elements of the government based on past experience, based on what we call history, that does lead me to have some concerns about elements of our government. And can I trust the government itself relative to those elements? And that leads me down a path that sometimes I don't want to go down. And you end up kind of looking at conspiracy theories, other things that may make sense on a certain level, but then if they're contextualized, may look completely different. So to that end, there are elements of the government that I do not trust and that I have to, because of, again, experience and history. But at the same time, I believe that to the degree that we have a transparent government relative to that of other countries, I believe I can trust it to that.
There's a lot of controversy back and forth whether or not we're supposed to wear masks and whether or not we're supposed to now wear these face shields. I was talking to my youngest son yesterday, and he was telling me that the CDC made an announcement yesterday or the day before that masks are no longer required, which I find very interesting, and he did too, because since the elections. So, what's really going on, I don't know. So I just have and it's not so much the government I have a problem with, it's some of the people and the way they're running it, and the things that are showing up in the newspapers and on the media and social media especially, that is giving us a different direction from what's really going on. And that's what really bothers me. We should not be caring really about what's going on over in England with, Harry and Meghan, even though they're here in the United States now, or any of the other governments over there. We should be only concerned with what's going on over here. And the newspapers and stuff should not be forcing us to pay attention to just all of that and nothing else.
The whole COVID thing has now, because of the reports of false reporting, over-reporting, who died of what, and now you're seeing the jokes on the internet. Obviously, there was 14 deaths over the weekend, gunshot wounds. People died of COVID gunshot wounds, kind of thing. And I don't find that kind of to be very humorous there. We have a serious problem here. Generally speaking, I trust the government, but we all pass around the phrase trust but verify. I love that. I think the American people have a serious problem at hand here because of the controverting reports that Robin mentioned. Who would know what to do when you're searching for information? You find scientifically this on this side of this, and then you read another report, well, scientifically speaking, and then everybody says, well, the science speaks for itself. Well, in reality, if it does, true science is not speaking here, as far as I'm concerned, because we're getting political. Science has become political. COVID has become this political hot potato. And once something becomes political, what's the American, each of us here, we look into things, we study a lot of things, but you put yourself in the position of the general public. They're out there, they're earning a living every day, they're taking care of their families, they're doing repairs on the house, and struggling to pay their bills, and that kind of thing. They don't have time for the most part. And what would you do if you didn't have the kind of conversations and insights that we get exposed to because of our diligence. And I'm not faulting the American public. It's just you've got no place to turn, to stick on the topic of, do you trust your government? At this point, it's become so partisan. We were talking earlier, there's no reaching across the aisle. There's no consensus building. There's nothing going on like that. And in my humble opinion, it really hasn't happened since the Clinton years, with Clinton and Gingrich working to bring, budgetary concerns under control and like that. Really, it's been a long time since we haven't had this partisanship. It needs to stop so that we can begin to trust the information we're given. Right now, no, not so much.
Sounds like we're talking mostly about the national government, although this would apply across the board. My trust has to be earned, and once it's lost, it's not easily brought back. I've worked at different levels of government in my working life, so I've seen a lot from the inside. I know there are still a lot of good people in the government, but I have to really question the voices that I'm hearing. And I'm just going to say this statement across the board. It's not at any party. It's not at any person. But I have a hard time trusting what we call career politicians. The career and politician are two words that should never match. If you can't do your job, what you came in for 2, 4, 6, 8 years, it's time to step down. It shouldn't be 20, 30, 40 plus years. I don't know if anybody has 50 yet, but you're in to do a job. And I know just from working with folks, if you go in to do something and you have a short time to accomplish it in, you say you're elected in for 4 years, and you only have those 4 years, your attitude in getting it done, your sense of urgency is going to be very different if you know, I'm going to be here for the long haul. Now I'm going to be here. My goal is to be here 40 years, and then I'm just going to be trying to keep my job. That's not, in my belief, how it's supposed to be. Go in, do what you went in to do, and then do your absolute best for the next, to help the next person fulfill the role, endorse somebody, whatever you have to do, but do your job, get it done, step down, and let somebody else come in, and then support them with the wisdom that you've gained from the role, but let them do the next role and keep it going. I believe a lot of the things we're dealing with, a lot of the misinformation we're getting, a lot of it wouldn't be here if it wasn't people trying to protect their jobs. We should already have term limits called elections. They shouldn't be, hardwired, baked in, but unfortunately, it seems once somebody gets in, they're able to get a lot of influence, a lot of control, pass out a lot of favors, and then they cash that in an election. It's very hard to get an incumbent out once they're entrenched in.
We're going to say
So
that.
yes, I would be on board with term limits to help deal with that.
Well, I don't trust the government. I might be wrong, but I don't see whether they're doing anything to move us forward. They're more or less geared for self-preservation. So I don't trust them. Like the COVID-19, I truly don't believe that is the true problem. I think it is a cover-up for something else that's going on. There is too much to me going on to say, okay, I can trust what they're doing. Take, for instance, the mail system. I don't understand why it stopped. All of a sudden, that has become a major problem. So there is so much that's going on now that I find that it's hard for me to trust them as to what they're saying. The COVID-19, the corn shortage, whatever, so it's a lot going on, and I don't believe that it's for our best interest. I think it's designed for a major change. Okay? So that's my thoughts on it, that it's designed for a major change, and we just don't know what the change is going to be. The question I have is why? why all of a sudden this has become a major issue, right? With no cure in sight or no remedy in sight. Okay? What is the purpose of it?
I'm one of those people that have a problem with distrusting the government because it's like a parent. If you totally distrust your parents, they're the ones that feed you, they're the ones that protect you. So you have to have some belief in them. You know as well as I do that if you see the real workings of the government, it's like making sausage. It ain't pretty. It's not pretty at all. And the things that go into it, you might not eat separately, but together it works. Somehow it works. And you were talking about trust and verify. I think that's the only way we can actually start to take control back of trusting and understanding, because a lot of the times it's not the government that's the problem. It's the people around trying to manipulate the government to do what they wanted to do for their issues. And that's why voting is so important. It is the only power that we truly have. Someone can go in as a corporation and give money to a senator to do this or a congressman or whatever. But the bottom line is that organization only has one vote. And we as a people voting together are more powerful than that one vote with money. We have to understand that. We truly have control, but we get manipulated into a subject we will discuss later on by the red herring. I always say the emperor has no clothes. We keep looking how great they look and how wonderful they are. And when you really look, there are nothing, there's nothing there. So when I look at it, I have to say that there's no organization that I truly trust. The bottom line is trust and verify. We have to get out there and stop looking at one area for our information. It cannot come from the computer. It cannot come from the newspaper, and it can't come from our neighbors. We have to do some effort and get out there and do something to see what we truly believe. The truth is out there.
I haven't honestly given it a whole lot of thought. I've seen both sides. Right now, personally, I'm having an issue with where I'm going to be able to vote. So this, so I've been told that I'm not legal to vote because I don't have a legal residence. And yet I'm getting papers now saying that I need to fill out these forms. It's a mess. So that's my big concern right now is, like myself and so many others in the voting community and a lot of us that are transients, is how are we going to vote and where can we vote? So we need to figure that out, and we're not getting any answers.
I've been a poll worker. I've been canvassing board in Flagler County. I hear people who don't know a lot about how the system works poo-pooing the system. Flagler County has been doing absentee voting or vote by mail for many years quite effectively. My confidence in the system, I can't speak to, big cities and what's going on there. They have to deal with their own morality on this. But I have, as far as, vote counting, I have really a high level of confidence that whatever happens, we tend to get all bent out of shape because, well, the polling going in said this, this poll said that, and this poll is more trustworthy, they did better sampling. There's one poll that counts, that I think that those who are in charge of counting those votes take it as a sacred honor and responsibility. I do trust the system. The system sometimes gives us some duds in history, but that's the system. It's flawed, and we do the best we can with it. To answer your question directly, I have a complete faith in it. It doesn't matter to me who wins, But all this other polling doesn't mean anything. They do it to try to influence your vote. Don't be influenced by that polling. Look at the individual, trust the individual that you're going to cast your vote for, and do it, with humility and as a sacred franchise that we have with each other in this country, to cast that vote. I've been intimate with the election system, as I said, and I trust it. These are good people who take it very seriously to count those votes. And I trust it because I've been into the belly of the beast, and there's some good people in there.
Charles,
Like Nathan, I am not too concerned about us locally. I do believe we have good people at the helm who, for lack of a better phrase, who want a fair fight. Let the best person win. So as far as us locally here, I am not concerned about, there's always going to be a little bit that tries to get in, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem for us locally. Again, other areas, I have no idea. But I look at my neighbors and I meet the people around town, and I have faith inside there. We may have different views, but we're good people. And at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right.
I don't trust it. It's too much going on for me to say, okay, I trust what's going to take place, because I'm hearing too many different reports of what's going on.
I have to say, yes, I'm going to trust what's going on. Again, like I said, with the church, my family, whatever, there's going to be those things on the outside that are going to try to confuse me. But I truly believe the base, the center of this whole thing is the truth. And I feel that people will make a choice. I may not agree with it, but I believe it will be the people's choice.
I just want to say that people need to think for themselves, not be browbeaten by what's going on social media. There is so much of that going on, and from different groups. And don't be concerned about what's going on with the mailboxes being removed. They're just replacing them. They're not just getting rid of them. And if you really want to do a mail-in vote, go drive over to the post office and hand deliver the damn envelope, the ballot yourself. Don't worry about this. The coin shortage will take care of itself. Yes, there's a lot of people that are dying from COVID, but is it really from COVID? There's all kinds of other issues and health issues that people are dying for. It's a serious problem. But just think for yourselves. Don't let others browbeat you into what you're supposed to be doing or thinking.
I'm going to say ditto to Robin. It just, people need to stop voting what they're saying, the polling things are doing. Do your own homework. Trust your own intuition. Your gut knows what you need to do, and it might not be the same as my gut, but do it. Be true to yourself. Be true to what you feel. Don't let the polls, don't let any group, political or otherwise, sway you. Do what you think is right, and it'll be the right thing. As individuals do what they think is right, it's right for all of us, because right is right.
I trust my neighbors. I trust my friends. I trust my fellow citizens. So I would like to, as far as the government is concerned, so the ones that are entrenched just because of their role and how long they've been there, and the longer you're in something, the more you're going to be separated from the reason why, and the voices of who you're in there to support. That's just a product of an environment. So there are portions I have trouble trusting, and I want to see new blood. I am so excited by the people rising up that don't have political ambitions. They just want to get in and do a job and do the right thing and help their fellow citizens. I see that uprising, and so that excites me to the core. So let's get some new, fresh people in, fresh perspectives that want to get the job done.
Our difficulties probably stems from people who complain but don't vote. I have seen with the outcome of people not voting, enough people that's not voting is enough to sway any election. So why do we sit and complain most people, particularly those that don't vote, make the most noise. But yet instead of going to the poll and voting for somebody, they're sitting at home and complaining about the results they're getting. So I think that if you want change, number one, you got to go to the poll and vote. Uh, and if you don't, then you have to learn to accept whatever you get. And I think the ones of us that do vote is the one that gets the most because we're more aware of what we're doing than those who don't vote, and we get the brunt of it because we see the same thing happen over and over again. So how do we get the people out to vote is the major issue. And if you look at the results of any election, the ones that didn't vote, the amount that didn't vote, far outnumber the people that vote.
I believe that as a group, we as a people, if we would take the responsibility of our government, and by that I just mean voting at the very least, that we would scare most people because, as Robert said, there are more people that don't vote than do vote. Can you imagine if the country voted as a whole, not necessarily for one person, but how could you control that many people? Today, by having a smaller voting group, we can control that issue. The other thing is we have to learn to find a way to get better information. When somebody sends us something on the internet, if somebody sends us something online, if somebody puts something in the newspaper, we have to stop believing that and do a little bit of research on it. It's no longer our mother and dad's news department.
Well, thank you all for your remarks. I'm just going to give mine really quickly and then want to exit out. But I will say that overall, relative to trust of the government, again, I have learned some things today. One of them is, one of the repeated things I heard today is trust but verify. And along with that comes a kind of a responsibility, individual responsibility that you have to think and act as an individual, but at the same time considering your fellow Americans. And so that's kind of how I've approached this, is that, as Charles had mentioned, that trusting your neighbors and groups like this one, being able to learn from, run ideas back and forth off of, this gives me a level of trust, not necessarily in the government per se, but trust in our society in general. And the government is answerable to us, to we the people, in my mind. So to that end, I trust you all. And to that degree, I trust my government because that is representative of the people. And the best government or best system that we know of today is right here in the United States.
Each other. Next week, we're going to speak about the red herring of equality. In that, we're talking about how an issue can be sidelined by other issues that don't mean as much. I'd like to invite any of you to go to our Facebook page and to add any comments that you might have. And if you have a subject matter you would like us to discuss. Many of you may not agree with what we say, but we can't hear you unless you leave some information so that we can get it. We would appreciate it. We hope to see you next week. Thank you for your time.